I appreciate being asked to speak today. It's always a pleasure, and I hope you think so too after all this is over with. My subject is about Samhain. It's, well, I'll explain from two of the books I have, the Everything Paganism book and The Complete Idiot's Guide to Wicca and Witchcraft. But it helps out to explain what goes on here on these various holidays that the witches and the pagans have. Samhain is on October 31st, Halloween, the witches' New Year. It's pronounced Samhain. It's spelled S-A-M-H-A-N-E. And it's, I'll never forget, I was tuning across the channel one night, just seeing I could find something to watch, and there's this female preacher yelling and screaming about the witches, and that got my attention. And she said, they worship a god called Samhain. And I had to look it up to find, and then I saw that, and I thought, that's not Samhain, it's pronounced Samhain. She did no research whatsoever. Anyway, it's probably the witch's greatest holiday according to the Idiot's Guide here. It's currently one that the public always associates with witches. For witches, this holiday is rather different tone than it does with the population at large. Samhain, rather than being a festival of sugar overconsumption, is a profound spiritual event. It marks the death of the Lord and also the start of the new year. On Samhain, witches hold celebrations to honor the dead. Some witches have a silent supper during which they relive moments in life with a friend or a loved one who has passed on. To celebrate such a supper, think fondly of the incident which involved the person with each bite you chew. When you swallow, let go of the memory and choose a new one for the next bite. Usually you reflect in the life of someone, including a pet or an animal who has died within a year. If you have not lost anyone during the year, you can give support to the people that you have. Or you can give reverence to all of the people who have died this year and reflect on how their lives touched the lives of others. That's a beautiful thing. Some witches eat a regular meal on Samhain, but then set a place at the table for a loved one who has died. I understand also they like to put, remember what the loved one's favorite food was, and actually cook up a meal and put it on that plate. It's a beautiful, beautiful observance. In the Everything Paganism book, let's see what they have to say. It is said that on Samhain, the veil between the worlds is at its thinnest point, and the spirits of the dead can most easily pass through it. It is a time when Wiccans, for them to contact their ancestors and honor them, as well as speak to those who have recently passed and on to relate messages to them. The dumb supper is one way to honor the dead. Each participant brings favorite food for the dead person and a token of remembrance. In one variation, small bits of each dish are put on the plate and placed outside overnight. In another variation, an actual meal is celebrated in silence with seats at the table for the dead and offerings in their favorite foods and their plates. Wiccans celebrate Samhain as the New Year's Eve because the Celts believe it is the day between the days. Samhain was not a day on the calendar, but a day between the end of the old year and the beginning of the new one. It is customary to cast a circle just before midnight, and then those gathered around the circle taking turns saying what needs to be said to the deceased and then placing offerings to them on the altar. The deceased can either be from the past year or can be long dead ancestors. Animals can also be honored. This ritual is very emotional and can last hours. After the ritual, the champagne toast is appropriate, and divination for the coming year is a popular post-ritual activity. That's a nice way of saying that's when they light the bonfire and party. Which brings me to a story that I have. I was told this story. I don't know how much truth is in it, but it's kind of enjoyable, so I want to share it with my friends here. The story goes that this minister and a bunch of his following have moved into the country, into this area, and it was inhabited by a lot of pagans. Pagani means country folk. That's all it means. And so anyway, the minister decided to go to the king of the country folk and say, we really appreciate you letting us move into the land. And he said, the land belongs to God, and it's yours. We're glad to have you.
The goddess.
Pardon?
The goddess.
All right, the goddess too. Yes, that's very true. But then the king said, but we do have a celebration coming up called Samhain, in which we very quietly commune with the dead, celebrate what we knew with them, and then afterward we light the bonfire and we dance. Oh, no problem there. It's okay. So, sure enough, they went through the ceremony of communicating with the past, loved ones, and then lit the bonfire. Now, in case you don't know, during these celebrations, the participants like to be what they call sky-clad, clad only by the sky. They enjoy being with nature as one. And so the minister and his congregation were there watching everything and enjoying it, and all of a sudden it's time to go dancing around the bonfire. And they all got sky-clad, which of course disturbed quite a few of the ladies of the ministry. But they sat there for a few minutes and then calmly walked back home again. But the next morning they went to the minister after Sunday service and said, you got to do something about this. It seems the people of any religion seem to have a problem with nudity, and they didn't like that one bit. The minister said, it's their religion, it's their service. I can't tell them what to do at their service. And the women said, you better, or else we'll find another minister who will. And so anyway, the minister went to the king and he explained what the problem was, and the king said, we're not going to change what we do here. You people don't have to come if you don't want to. We invited you, but you don't have to come if it is offensive to you. Well, the king had the women come to him almost every week and said, well, what are you going to do? We got to stop this business. And so the minister thought, and he came up with an idea. And he went to the king and he said, you told me about this whole thing of the veil between their land and your land is at its thinnest, and that's why some of the ghosts come through. That's my word, ghost. They don't use things like that. The spirits of the dead. He said, what if they come in and they see your women clad as they are, and they get excited and they go into the bodies of the women or even the people? And the king said, we have no worry about that. But he had implanted the thought. And so sure enough, here comes the next Samhain, and they do their service, and then light the bonfire. Well, by this time, most of the women have already gone home. They don't want to see this again. However, the minister stays there. He wants to see what's going to happen after he planted the thought in the king's head. And the king had gone to the women and said, the minister feels this is going to happen. And they said, it's not going to happen. We're going to do things the way we've always done things. And so sure enough, they were dancing, having a great time, and drinking. Well, the minister was watching which cup that the women were drinking from. And as they were out dancing, he would go around and drop a little particular drug into their cups. The minister knew about these drugs and what they could do, and these would create hallucinations in their head. So sure enough, there were about 6 of them. All 6 of them got sick, very sick, to a point where they were ranting and raving, and they finally calmed them down. The next morning, the king said, "Bring them around to the house. I'm a minister, but I'm also a doctor, and I also serve them." I said, "Okay." So they brought the 6 women there, and they were passed out by then the next morning. And he had medicines to make them feel better. And he told the king, he said, I warned you about this. Obviously, the spirits of the dead have incorporated themselves inside the women because they were dancing rather fluidly, if that's a word. And he said, I have given them spiritual treatment to make the dead go back to their other side of the spirit world. By this time, the king's beginning to think this is really right, what he's doing, so we better cover up. And he said, well, how do we do this? And the king, or the minister said, dress them up, put them in ugly clothes, put a mask on their face, don't show any beauty whatsoever. And that way the spirits won't want to come into their bodies. Okay, said the king of the gypsies. And he did, and they did. And they all dressed up in these ugly dresses, full of coal and soot and everything, wore horrible masks over their beautiful faces to make sure that the spirits from the other world would not incorporate their bodies. Well, nobody got sick the following year because the minister didn't dip into their cups with this special little flow of drugs. And so the king says, well, this must be right. So from now on, we're all going to dress up in costumes. And the wilder, the better, but cover everything up anyway. And they did, and they never had any problems after that. Well, this went on for quite a few years. By this time, the minister had been exchanged to another area. And a few of the ladies who enjoyed dancing sky-clad decided to go back to the way they were and just take their chances. Well, since the minister was gone, of course, they didn't have any problems. Well, they called out again, and quickly, everybody went back to the way they used to be. Well, the new minister didn't know what to do, and he was told this story, and of course, he didn't know what the other minister had done. He didn't know what to do. So he decided, you live your life the way you want to. We'll live our life the way we want to, and we'll not fight each other. Man, that's a good way of thinking, you know, when you think about it. Well, it went on like that, and it continues on to this day. So don't trust a minister who knows how to use drugs. Okay. You know, that's my story. As I say, who knows how much truth is in stories when you get it, but it's a lot of fun to talk about it and share with, so whatever. You know, the other part of my talk here this morning, 2 or 3 weeks ago, this young lady here had talked about why she came to UU. And I thought, you know, I went to a Unity church up in Murfreesboro, and they had every week someone would come up. It was just a special part. They would come up, why I joined Unity. And this when I remember, all she did was say, because they have good coffee here. And I said, okay, at least she's telling the truth. Speaking of good coffee, thank you. Who made? You made?
Lucy. Lucy came in really early.
Did she make the call? Oh, okay. Thank you, Lucy, wherever you may be. The reason I joined UU, this happened years ago. I used to be a Catholic, as they call me now. I'm a recovering Catholic, but I quit the church when I was about 16. And then I did not go to church for almost 30 years. I didn't go anywhere. I had no desire to. I didn't believe in it. And one day, my wife brings home a magazine, one of those monthly publications that they have out and for metaphysics, which I was big into. And it had an ad for Unity Church. And it must have said something to me because it felt good to even give them a call. And I talked to the lady who answered the phone and asked her about the church and the minister. And I said, look, you're only a few miles from here. Can I come up and see you? This was Friday. I said, can I come up and see the church? Sure, come on up. Well, I liked the church, I liked the minister, and I went to Unity. And eventually I was on the board of directors, teaching me never to join the board of directors of anything. However, that got me going with that, and then after a while, there was a Unitarian church quite closer to my home, because I had to drive like I do now about 30, 40 miles just to get to church when I was at Unity. So I thought, okay, let's try Unitarian and see what that's about. Well, they were very different. How can you describe a Unitarian church? I've been to UUs in 7 different states, and every one of them are different, which is good. But this is how I got started with that one. I also was conducting a metaphysical class every Monday night at a local place I rented. And I did a talk one night myself. Don't even remember what the subject was. But this fellow comes up to me and he said, can I talk to you after you're finished? I said, sure. So he said, I'm with UU of Eustis, which is a town in Florida. He said, would you come talk to us? I said, about what? I'm not a religious person. I don't like to talk about God because I don't believe in the God and things like that. So he said, anything you want to talk about? I said, anything? He said, yes. And he was serious. He said, tell me when you come in that day what you're going to talk so I can introduce you. I thought, this is going to be interesting. I said, you know, I may talk about flying saucers. I may talk about reincarnation. He said, anything you choose. Wow. And so sure enough, I said yes, and I talked to him that day. I think it was about reincarnation. And I wasn't thrown out of the church. It was great. And I thought, this might be for me. So I started going to Eustis, UU. and it was just wonderful. There were 2 or 3 UUs very close, which is kind of unbelievable in Florida when you think how many Baptists and how many Church of Christ they had there on every other corner. But I enjoyed my stay there. Whenever I would go out of town to another state or visiting, I'd always look in the phone book, and sure enough, there was a UU, and I would go to that church that Sunday and found out it was so different from any others I had ever been to, which was good. I learned quite a bit from quite a few people. Anyway, that's how I was introduced to UUs, and I'm glad. I told somebody here about a month ago, I said, I won't go to church unless it starts with you. Unitarian or Unity, but I am glad I'm here. The reason I'm here at this particular church, I was going to the one up in Murfreesboro. And that's one of the few that the church and Joe did not connect. It was a thing where I just didn't connect with the people there. But I still go every week. And then Doug, our minister, was a speaker there one Sunday. I'd never met him. He looked like a nice guy and gave a good handshake when I met him before he started the service. And he was talking about this church and how he was the minister here and how it was like one big family, lots of hugging. And my ears perked up. So I got to try this place. Only took me 3 drive-bys before I find it. Oh, there it is behind the sign. And I started coming here my second trip. I said, I want to join. And he got the big book out, and I signed up. And I've been coming here for about 5 years since then. And doing some talks for him. This is one thing I can do, whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But anyway, I have enjoyed coming, and the people I meet here are just fantastic. There's a couple of people who have been very close to me, which I appreciate, and I just enjoy everybody who's here. And I've enjoyed all of you today, and thank you very much for asking me to talk.